Did you know a 2,000-year-old woman was found in Scotland with her brain scooped clean out of her skull and her own bones carved into tools? That sentence alone should unsettle you. But there is a detail buried deeper in this discovery that researchers still cannot explain. One that challenges almost everything we thought we knew about Iron Age Britain. And the reason they cannot explain it has nothing to do with the missing brain. 2,000 years ago, in what is now the Scottish Highlands, someone deliberately opened a woman's skull, removed her brain, and then, instead of burying her remains with any kind of reverence, turned parts of her skeleton into functional objects. This discovery, unearthed by archaeologists working in the region, has sent shockwaves through the academic community precisely because it refuses to fit neatly into any existing framework. The key players here are the archaeological team, the mysterious woman herself, and an entire Iron Age community whose rituals we are only now beginning to glimpse. None of that, however, was the real shock. The number that stopped me cold is coming up. Let me set the scene. According to All That's Interesting, experts initially suspected the brain may have been cannibalized, consumed as part of a ritual act. Others proposed something almost equally strange, that the brain was removed as part of an attempt to clean and preserve the skull, perhaps as a trophy, perhaps as a sacred relic. Either explanation is extraordinary, because both suggest a level of intentionality and anatomical knowledge that we rarely associate with Iron Age Scottish communities. This wasn't a hasty act of violence. Someone took time with this body. Someone had a plan. The skull showed evidence of careful, deliberate work, not the ragged damage you'd see from battlefield trauma or scavenging animals. This was surgical. And then there are the bones. Her own skeletal remains were fashioned into tools. Think about what that means. Not driftwood, not antler, not flint. Her. The person she had been was literally repurposed into instruments of daily life, or perhaps ritual life. We do not yet know which, and that distinction matters enormously. By the way, if this kind of story fascinates you the way it fascinates me, hit like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who love the strange corners of history. Now here is where it gets truly unsettling. What I am about to show you is the part most people are missing. The deeper angle nobody else is covering is this. The treatment of this woman's remains does not match any single known burial practice from Iron Age Scotland. It is not a standard inhumation. It is not cremation. It is not excarnation. The practice of exposing a body to the elements and scavengers, which we know some Celtic and Pictish communities practiced. It is something else entirely, and that something else is what has archaeologists genuinely baffled, because it suggests there may have been a tradition, possibly widespread, that left almost no trace in the archaeological record until now. This woman is not just a skeleton. She is a keyhole into a world we didn't know existed. The villain in this story, if there is one, is time itself. 2 millennia of silence that swallowed whatever beliefs, whatever logic, whatever grief or reverence drove someone to do this. The heroes are the researchers painstakingly trying to reconstruct meaning from fragments, and the woman caught in the middle. She is the one whose story was never written down, whose name we will never know, whose body became both artifact and mystery. If this discovery is not an anomaly, if other sites across Scotland or Northern Europe yield similar evidence, It could rewrite our understanding of Iron Age spiritual life entirely. Stay with me. The last part is what actually matters. Here is the detail that changes everything. The bones that were turned into tools showed signs of prolonged use. They were not carved and discarded. They were not symbolic tokens placed in a grave and forgotten. Someone used them regularly, over time. That means this woman's remains were kept among the living. Her bones were part of someone's daily existence, held in someone's hand, worn smooth by repeated contact with human skin. This is not just body processing. This is relationship. Whatever was done to her was not a one-time act of desecration or devotion. It was ongoing. The community, or an individual within it, maintained a physical, tactile connection to this woman long after her death. Experts now suspect this may represent a belief system in which the dead were not separated from the living, but integrated into life itself. Here is exactly what happens next. As analysis continues, researchers will attempt DNA and isotope testing to determine whether she was local or an outsider, which could reveal whether this treatment was reserved for honored community members or for enemies and captives. That answer will determine whether we are looking at an act of love or an act of power. Before I go, here is your historical footnote of the day. In 1984, workers cutting peat in Lindo Moss, England, discovered a 2,000-year-old body so well preserved they initially called the police, thinking it was a recent murder victim. Lindo Man, as he came to be known, had been struck on the head, garroted, and had his throat cut before being placed face down in the bog. 3 methods of killing. Researchers believe this was a ritualistic triple death, a sacrifice designed to appease not one god, but 3. His stomach contained traces of burnt grain, possibly a ceremonial last meal. The parallels to our Scottish woman are striking. Iron Age Britain was a place where death was not an ending, but a transaction, a negotiation with forces we can barely imagine. That is your footnote for today. If you are still thinking about a woman whose bones were held by living hands for years after her death, you are not alone. Subscribe to Weird History. I cover this every single day. See you tomorrow.